Hi there, it's Brent Webb. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of the Mastermind Show. I certainly hope you are doing well out there in internet land. I know this quarantine is just a weird situation. This is the longest I've been in one spot, probably since I was 18. So I'm starting to go a little bit stir crazy, but I'm using this time for productive things, and I hope you are too. Now, today's episode is going to be amazing because my guests are two of my very good friends, Jerry and Teresa Mathers. Now, you probably know Jerry from It To Beaver, but his career is unbelievable. You will not believe the things that he has done. We met when I was working on a cruise ship. I was doing my show and Jerry was lecturing. Then we got stranded on a desert island together. No, it's not Gilligan's Island. It is actually the truth. And we'll get into that story a little bit later on. I'm also going to talk today about the power of imagination, because I am talking all the time about focus and concentration, but everything in this universe is powered by imagination. And the key to everything that you want in your life is inside you. Everyone is always looking outside for something to validate them or to make them happy or to make them wealthy. And the key for every person's destiny is inside yourself. And once you learn how to connect to yourself, talk to yourself, love yourself, everything in your life starts to change. And I found this out for myself years ago. I worked with a lot of celebrities. I worked with Joan Rivers. They all followed this sort of mind power life. They were guided by the magic of believing, an old book from the 50s, which was pretty much the secret of today, the book that everyone talks about with the law of attraction. Those things are real. Whatever you think, you bring into existence. The more negative you are, the more negative you're going to have in your life, and vice versa. The secret is learning how to edit your thoughts, change the way you think, and you will start to see unbelievable changes in your life. Now, I've been following this process for years now, and the things that have happened to me are crazy. I have done what I love to do, touring this world, performing my entire life. I have never wanted for anything. I've been pretty much happy. And it's all because once I learned the secrets of mind power and the fact that imagination is the fuel that runs your life, everything changed for me. And everything can change for you too. You know, the Wright brothers wanted to fly, and everyone said they were crazy, they were lunatics. Leonardo da Vinci, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, everyone called them dreamers. When in fact they weren't daydreaming all those years ago, they were visualizing and imagining their vision. And today, those visions are reality. Most people tend to treat imagination as something that has nothing to do with reality. But this is the wrong attitude. Imagination has much to do with reality. It shapes the way we see our reality, and therefore it affects our expectations and hopes, our actions and behavior. Imagination is like a software that programs our behavior, expectations, and actions. This means that we have to be very careful with what we imagine, since what we see in our mind's eye can become our reality. If we imagine bad things, we program our mind accordingly, and sooner or later, see, act, and behave accordingly, and create what we imagined. This also works the other way. Imagine good things, and this will affect your actions and behavior, which consequently would create in your life what you imagined in your mind. Your reality mirrors what goes on in your mind. If you imagine yourself weak and poor, you will enact this part in your life. But if you imagine yourself powerful and rich, you will eventually become so. Now, everything starts in the mind and in imagination. Your imagination is responsible to a large extent for the kind of life that you're experiencing right now. And what goes into your mind now would affect your future. Now, a business starts as a thought and a mental image. You first imagine yourself possessing a certain kind of car, and then you do something to get it. If you wish to lose weight, you start by imagining yourself slim and well-shaped. If this thought is clear and focused, and you allow no doubt, you will sooner or later find the ideas, the information, and the energy to do something about it. If you imagine yourself as an athlete, a teacher, or an actor, and repeat this thought in your mind day after day, living in the end, like Neville Goddard says, you live in the end, the life that you want to live. You start living now. You feel it inside, even if it's not real. These thoughts will drive you into action. And eventually,
will turn into your reality. This is exactly how successful people become prosperous. So now, 4 reasons how your imagination is creating the events in your life. When you imagine a certain thing day after day, gradually you start thinking about it most of the time. This will drive you instinctively to search for information about it, become aware of opportunities concerning it, and become motivated to accomplish what you imagined. That's number 1. Number 2, using your imagination to build a mental picture of what you want tells your subconscious mind that you really want it. Consequently, the subconscious mind will supply you the energy to do something about it, and it will also make sure that you're aware of any opportunities that could make it a reality. Number 3, your thoughts create a mental image of the object, situation, or people that you're thinking of, and in subtle ways affect you and your environment. Now, repeating the same scenario in your mind affects your thinking, which in some ways affects the thoughts of other people and attracts to you the people who, like you, and who can help you make your thoughts come true. It is not a coincidence that sometimes when you're looking desperately for a certain object, an answer to something that is troubling you, or for a specialist in a certain area, all of a sudden the object or answer pops up, or you find the person you're looking for. Number 4. You, through your imagination, are shaping your life's events. If you tend to worry, think negatively, and expect failure, you are using your imagination in a negative manner. Eventually, you might get what you imagine: failure and despair. Vice versa. If you imagine and envision progress, promotion, and successful results, you will attract opportunities and take action. You will see opportunities which otherwise you would have missed. In this case, you will get what you imagine: success. Imagine for yourself only the highest good. When you learn to be in command of your imagination, you learn to control your destiny.
All right, now it's time to talk to 2 of my favorite people, Jerry and Teresa Mathers. You all know Jerry from his role in Leave It To Beaver and his various movie roles over the years. His wife, Teresa, is an amazing lady in her own right. She has a background in show business. She also has a green thumb and grows amazing, beautiful, award-winning roses. I'm really happy they took time out of their busy day to join me here today for a talk. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be enthralled, amazed, and entertained by Jerry and Teresa Mathers.
Welcome. It is so great to have both of you guys on. I know it's such a awkward, strange time right now, and I'm just wondering, what are you two doing dealing with the COVID-19 crisis?
Having a wonderful time because we're just staying home. Teresa's very big into roses. She's a president of our local Rose Society, and she has how many rose bushes?
About 85.
That takes a lot of work. So she's the supervisor, and guess who gets to do the work?
Well, of course, you're the husband.
Exactly.
I didn't know I was the rose keeper, though, too.
We were talking the other day on the phone. How long have you guys been home now without going anywhere?
Since March 3rd.
That's amazing. So you said you had groceries sent in, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have out here, you can have, there's delivery services that you just make up the list, and then they go out and do the shopping. We have a bench on our front porch. It's a really long bench that opens up, and they just put the groceries in, and we send them a check.
Well, no, the credit card goes through.
Or the credit card goes through either way.
Yeah. Then we wipe everything down with alcohol and.
Also, cans and boxes and everything you wipe down.
We do, just because it just feels safer, So
you never know who looked at it just to see how many calories it had or whatever. So we want everything disinfected.
I was thinking of the same thing. I was in the grocery store and I was looking at tomatoes, and I was squeezing the tomato and I was thinking, how many people have been around this produce?
Yeah. So we get oranges and then we just wash them in the sink because it has the skin of the orange, and we feel real safe with that.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to see you guys together, and you always look so happy and so perfectly matched. And so I was just wondering if you could tell us how you guys met.
Our sisters were very best friends. So I love my sister very much, but when your sister tells you she has the perfect date for you, you always go, yeah, right. So I for a long while I don't know about Teresa, but was a little hesitant. But my sister is the mayor of the city she lives in. She's a politician, and she is not very good at taking no for an answer. So I thought, okay, she's going to bother me forever. I'll go out with this girl one time, and then I can be free again. No such luck.
We hit it off right away.
She was a doll, and I realized I've realized that women are much better at analyzing and knowing other women than men are.
That's true. Women are good matchmakers. How long have you guys been married?
We've been married 9 years.
Wow.
And one quick thing about our first date, which was a blind date. Actually, it was a blind date for him, but of course I knew who he was. I watched the show when I was little. And so Jerry picked a restaurant that he loves, a couple of things that they serve. And he figured if the date didn't work out, he'd have the very best lunch and it would not be a problem.
And it's a restaurant I frequent, not a whole lot, but whenever I do interviews and they go, would you like to go to a restaurant? That's where I tell them to go. So they have really good ribs and steak. So it's a great restaurant for me.
That's awesome.
Right. I thought that was kind of brilliant for him to plan it that way.
No, it's funny you mentioned that too, because that's one of the questions I want to ask you. I've always wondered when somebody marries a celebrity, especially somebody iconic that you grow up with, is Leave It to Beaver a show that you watched when you were younger?
Oh, sure.
No.
Well, yeah, that's another question. Do people watch, when you film a show, do you actually watch it when it comes on during the week or no?
No, in fact, they asked that I didn't because they didn't want me to see things that I might not like that they particularly like, because if they didn't like the scene, they would have used another one. So they didn't want people criticizing me, my family, and saying, oh, you should have stood here, all the things that you might do.
Right.
So they asked my parents. And when you've done a show for an entire week, I knew everybody's lines. I knew the entire show. So I always watched all our competition.
And Teresa, that getting my head around that, because I was just thinking, I used to watch, Leave It to Beaver was on way before my time, but everyone knows that show because it's never stopped running. And it was on every day.
57.
Yeah, before school, after school, that show. And most people don't know, and I didn't know this about you until I was doing some research and I saw the picture of you two with Carol Burnett, and you were talking about being, typing scripts for her script writers. What did you do in the business? How did you start out in the business?
Well, actually, that was my first job, working with two writers of her show. There were 10 writers, and I worked at their house. At the end of the day, I typed their scripts for Carol and some of the other guests on the show. I never was able to go to the set because they had their own people there. But I was told by this woman, one of the writers, she said, you could do this and you could do that. And, all these different jobs she told me about. And sure enough, that's exactly what I did. I just went right up the line and did production assistant, locations, coordinating. And I did a lot of editing. Producing. I didn't do editing, but I sat in the edit room and I loved doing that and putting all the pieces together. And then I became a producer, and I was in the business about 35 years. So we're a great match that way because I'm behind the camera, he's in front of the camera. And I also worked PR in one of the largest companies in Los Angeles for a while. So that was great background too. So he never has to worry about me, doing something crazy or something.
I wouldn't do that for it.
And so I tell people, well, for years I helped coordinate red carpets, and now I get to walk down with Jerry, and it's such a privilege and an honor, and I feel very blessed.
You know what I like to? We were talking earlier. We had some camera issues, so we were working them through. But I thought was great too, because what you said about you've done both sides. So when you walk down the red carpet, you're thanking and that they can't believe that you're thanking them, because most celebrities and their spouses don't. Right.
I can appreciate what they're doing because I've done it, and they appreciate being thanked, certainly. And I really feel like those behind the folks people are really what makes these events happen.
And some of them are people that she's even worked with.
Yeah, exactly. So we're a great match in that way.
It's like now when the people, that are keeping the country running are the people, working in store. It's all the people that before were, not important workers, people working in grocery stores and gas stations and fast food. And they're the people that are keeping everyone going right now.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
We should thank them every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Somebody said something like next year when all the award shows happen, the celebrities should stay home, and the nurses and the doctors and the first responders, they should be walking down the red carpet.
That's a great idea. I heard somebody had pitched an idea to Congress about erasing student debt for anyone in the medical field that's been helping out during the pandemic. I think that's a great idea. I mean, that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if a lot of people know this either, but Jerry mentioned it about your passion for flowers, and you grow some amazing roses. I actually have to show you guys because I went and found this picture of some of these amazing flowers. It's crazy. One of the roses was selected as the full page in the the American Rose Society's 2020 calendar. Is that right?
That is right, actually. And I have it right here. I'm very proud of this because, let's see, where is it? They have about 600 submissions. And then, of course, each page has 5 flowers, but only 12 can make the full page. And so mine was picked for January. This rose is called Baldo Valegas.
So, and not only did she just grow it, but she also took the picture. So it's like kind of a dual thing. That it's not only just that it's a great rose, but that she's also qualified enough or smart enough to know how to make a picture that goes into a calendar.
Yeah.
And I've had my pictures selected since 2012. So every year they get about 600 submissions. And I've had 2 full pages, the second full page, but I've also had 1 or 2 or 3 in the calendars throughout these years. So I love it. It's a passion. And I actually take all of these photos with my iPhone. So I feel really proud about that too, because it's, you don't have a lot of, things you can focus and then you've got wind and you've got bugs. And so sometimes I'll take 25 or 30 pictures of one rose, and then I decide that's the one I want to send at. We can send 10 a year. So if anybody is interested in that, it's AmericanRoseSociety.com, and they have this contest every year for the calendar.
Is the calendar on their site for sale? Like people buy one if they want?
Yes, they can buy one. I think they're like $15. I don't know if they have any now at this time of the year, but every year, and it's a fundraiser for them. So, and it's a beautiful calendar. It's just, a huge calendar. So it's very exciting. I love it.
Well, most people, I tell this story a lot, but we on a Princess Cruise, we were doing part of a world cruise, I think it was. And it was my first, it was actually my first cruise job because it was the Pacific Princess, which wasn't the same ship, but the Pacific Princess was the Love Boat. Remember in the old TV show?
Right.
That's where the idea
McLeod got me on there. And we met on there. You were lecturing about your career, Jerry, and I was doing my act. But the story that I tell everyone in my show is what happened at the end. We were getting ready to fly out of an airport, and the airport was in Pago Pago, right?
Right.
And they said, and it was literally a hut. It was like an open air hut and a runway. There wasn't really too much there. And they said, "Oh, the plane is late because they're repairing the engine in the last town." And luckily,
that's big of them. I mean, you wouldn't want them not to.
And you're like, "We are not getting on this airplane." So because you're Jerry Mathers, you were able to, get on the phone with Princess, and they put us up for almost a week, right? It was 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And, the other thing is that there was only one plane a week that went to LA.
Yeah.
So we had to wait a week for that next plane.
It was a Hawaiian Airlines plane.
We got to.
Better than ending up in the ocean forever.
Yeah. And that was fun. We got to have meals together, and, so that was great for us with
you.
It
was hot too. It was really, and it was funny because everything I know, I like to eat, obviously, everything was stale that you bought in the store because everything had to be, sent over by boat or something. So they're like potato chips and everything. And it was so humid there. Everything was really, It was also the weekend that Whitney Houston died, because I remember that happened while we were there too.
Oh,
I remember
right.
reading-
That's
yep.
right. That's right. Yeah. Right.
Jerry, I want to start a little bit about you. I know you were born in Iowa, and when did you move with your family to California?
I moved before I was a year old. My dad retired as a superintendent of LA City Schools, but I was born in Iowa, and he was born in Iowa. And so he went back there to go to college to get his master's. And then when he came out here, which is what he always wanted to do, my mom was born in Minnesota, but had been out here since she was a year old. And she did not like the cold weather. And my dad honestly didn't particularly like the summer or the winter there, because it's very, very hot and humid and then very, very cold. And when he came out here to go to USC for his master's, he decided that that's where he wanted to stay, and that's where he met my mom. So he went back there for about a year to finish up some businesses and things that he had to do there. So I was born in Iowa and then came out here. So I've really grown up in Los Angeles, but I was born and very proud of it in Sioux City, Iowa.
And you've lived in California then ever since, right?
Ever since, right. So I don't, and people always say, "Oh, do you know so and so and so and so in Iowa?" And I say, "No, I was a year old when I left." Now I know I've been back there several times and met a lot of relatives, because that's where my dad was from. But my mom was from LA, and she just didn't like the cold back in Iowa for those winters.
Was the so I was doing some research this last week, and
Okay.
I want to know, I saw the still of you from the milk commercial with Ed Wynn. Was that your first job in show business?
Yeah, I was about 2 years old, and they wanted a little boy that could walk out on the stage. And a lot of people don't really know, he was a vaudevillian comedian, so he was very hands-on, and there was a lot of action going on, and people yelling and throwing things. So they wanted a child that could every week walk out, and he was supposed to be talking about this, that, and the other thing. And they just said, go up, and he had on one of those long jackets like that has tails on it. And I was supposed to walk up to him in diapers, 6 guns, and a cowboy hat, and say, it's time for a commercial, and pull on his jacket. And he'd go away, kid. And I knew him for about probably a week before. They brought me in for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, twice a day, so I could meet him and I wouldn't be afraid of him. He said, "No, this is what I'm going to do, but this is acting. So it's not that I want you to go away. You just keep pulling and say, it's time for a commercial, no matter what, because that's what you're supposed to do." So that was easy. And, I knew he wasn't going to scream at me or anything. It was all part of a show. It's running for a live audience. And once I did it right, at 2 years old, they couldn't go out and find another kid that they thought could do it. And I did it every week for probably 3 or 4 months, once a week.
Wow. What do you remember you got paid for that? What was the pay for something like that?
Probably $300 or $400. And my dad at the time was working. He ended up as a superintendent of LA schools, but he was at SC and working at Sears and Roebuck's at night in the credit department. And my mom was taking care of myself and my sister, and I have other brothers, but at that time just one brother. And so it was a little extra money, and it was very, very easy for me. I just go there. Man said, "Go and do what you did last week," and I did. And once I did that, of course, all the other live shows started hiring me, because they knew that I could go out, say a few lines, and they didn't have to worry about me starting to cry or saying no or running off the stage. So I just worked all the time on Lex Video Theater. And then Alfred Hitchcock was doing a live commercial on one of those shows and hired me for The Trouble with Harry, which was Shirley Maclaine and John Forsythe's first movie. But I had worked a whole lot before then. And then I started working all the time after that.
What was it like working with Hitchcock?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot different than a lot of the different people I worked with, because he was a very nice man, and we went to Stowe, Vermont. And so when you're at or on a set, it's a little bit different than we were there for about 12 or 15 weeks. So you're more of a family like, and he would run his lines with me. I'd sit on his lap and he'd say, "No, say this line this way," or, do this or do that. So he became definitely wasn't his best friend, but I did know him when we were doing Leave It to Beaver then, which was after that. He was doing the Alfred Hitchcock Presents down the street, like one stage, and he would come in like once a month for 2 days and do all the intakes and outtakes from the different things where he'd explain the show. So I'd always see him in the cafeteria, and I'd walk over to him, or he'd walk over to the table and say hello. And he became, he always called me. He was the very first person that ever called me Mr. Mathers. And I said, oh, well, everybody calls me Jerry. He said, no, you're an actor. If you're an actor with me, you're going to be a Mr. So first person, and he always called me my entire life Mr. Mathers from basically 6 years old.
Wasn't there something about blueberry muffins with him?
Well, yeah, because we're in Stowe, Vermont. There really wasn't, and a lot of it, if anybody ever sees The Trouble with Harry, is done outside. And so we were on location a lot, and they couldn't really just go to a restaurant because it was a huge crew. And so they had the local ladies make the food for us for lunch and dinner, which we would usually have, and sometimes breakfast. And the big thing there was making blueberry muffins. And so each lady was allowed to bring in like 18 muffins, and they'd all lay them all out. And then Mr. Hitchcock would go up and down the table and pick just one. And I'd go run. Everybody else was kind of, but not me. I just ran right up there and ran right behind him. I'd say, well, which one are you going to pick today, Mr. Hitchcock? And he'd go, oh, Mr. Mathers. He always called me Mr. Mathers. Well, I think we'll take this one today. And he'd take one and I'd take one. And I knew that was the best one for that day.
You are one of the people, the celebrity stars that everybody just has in their heart. You, generation after generation of people grew up watching you. I mean, it has to be an amazing thing. I mean, you walk down the street, everyone has to know who you are. Tell us how you got the job on Leave It to Beaver.
Well, Leave It to Beaver was what they call a cattle call. I had been a working actor. I started in live TV on the Red Skelton and the Ed Wynn Show when I was 2 years old. I worked with Hitchcock. I worked with Bob Hope. I did all these different things. So when I was going on just another interview, it was no big thing. It wasn't like it was this is my first time. So I walked in and they said, read the lines. And I read the lines and talked to and walked out. And, it was something I did all the time. And then they called me back and called me back and called me back. And it was getting kind of a little, not annoying, but I was thinking, what is this? Well, what I didn't know is they were looking for an older brother and all the other kids. And I was reading with all of them. But I thought they were still deciding whether it's going to be me or somebody else. I'm thinking, why do I have to keep going back and reading these same lines over and over again with all these people? Later on, actually a couple of years later, I said, how come I had to come for so many interviews? And they said, well, we know we wanted you. We just didn't know who we wanted to work with yet.
Is it true you came to the final callback interview with the Cub Scout uniform?
Yes. And when I walked in, they looked at me and they said, Jerry, you're awfully fidgety today. What's wrong? And I said, well, I'm really supposed to be in a Cub Scout uniform, so I don't have much time. And they said, okay, you can go. And my mom said, when I walked back out, they said, Jerry, what happened? Because all the other people had been in there for like a long time, a half hour or whatever. And I said, well, they asked me if I wanted to be here. And I said, no, I wanted to go to my Cub Scout meeting. So they said I could go. My mom said, that probably wasn't the best thing to tell them. But I said, well, that's what was the truth. And she said, okay. And they called that night and said I had the job because they'd rather have a little boy that wanted to be a Cub Scout than be a movie star.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you the following important information. I'd like to give you a little info on Jerry's social media. You can follow Jerry online at jerrymathers.com and on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Jerry Mathers. As always, you'll find me online at brentwebb.info or brentwebb.com, and on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, it's Brent Webb Official, and on Twitter, it's Mental Master. And I'd appreciate it if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a lot of new content coming, especially part 2 of this interview with Jerry and Teresa, which I'm going to put up next week. In a moment, I'm going to ask Jerry about people he's worked with during his career. I'm going to show him some pictures. Just ask for the first thought that pops in his mind. We now return you to this regularly scheduled podcast.
Because I love this character.
Yeah. That's Burt Mustin. He was really interesting because he'd been a life insurance salesman all for his adult life. and then he retired from that, but he started doing little theater. And so they were looking for an older gentleman that could play like a fireman that was kind of retired but still worked at the fire department. And so he started on a Leave It To Beaver and did several other sitcoms after that. But he was just a really nice man and had a lot of interesting stories. It was a lot of fun to be around, but very much of a jokester.
What did you tell me? He started acting at what age?
Yeah.
Like probably in his late 60s,
Yeah.
not early 60s, but middle 60s
Yeah.
to late 60s. But, you know, he was just, he had done, he didn't start acting then because he had done some little theater and things like that in probably his 40s and 50s, but nothing professionally until he started on Leave It To Beaver. And then he did quite a few other shows after that.
This, of course, Barbara Billingsley.
Lovely lady. She was a New York model and just one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet, and basically kept us all in line. Yeah, she would always, if you were doing something that she really didn't appreciate, she would put her arm on your shoulder and just pull the short hairs in the back of your And she'd say, "Now, Jerry, let's talk about the ladies first." Like sometimes I'd go to open a door for her and she'd think I was trying to rush in front of her. That's really probably what I was doing. But she would just grab the back and she'd, "Ladies first," and everybody would go, "Oh, they didn't notice it," but I knew that I had been told, "Don't do that."
This, of course, Frank Bank.
He was probably the best actor on the show because he was really smart. He was actually one of the top bonds and stock dealers. That's what he did in real life. But he had that character, lucky character, just really down so well, and just a very, very nice person. He was always a little overweight and died fairly early because of a heart problem.
Now, I remember we talked on the cruise about, didn't he help you invest money, or he was really good with money, right? He made a lot of money.
That's what he was. He was an investment person, and that's what he did. He handled people, estates and large things. So while he was alive, he was my broker basically, and he took a lot of the money I had from Leave It To Beaver and made it a lot more money by investing in different stocks and bonds. And he'd call me up probably once every other month or everything. He'd say, "Well, this one's lagging a little bit, but I see this one, it's shooting up." And he, you know, of course, like anything else, he missed a few, but he made a lot more home runs than he did misses.
I heard he was quite a ladies' man too. He said he had a lot of girlfriends.
He did, and Ken Osmond too. Both of them were, you know, people always say Eddie Haskell, but they were both the ladies' men. And Tony Dow, not that he wasn't a ladies' man, but everybody thought that he would be the big ladies' man. But definitely Ken and Frank were the I don't know what you'd call them, but not gigolos, but they were the troopers. They were always out. They always had these really beautiful actresses that, you know, they take to the proms, not the proms, but the different shows that we go to and things, the Emmys and the Oscars and all the events. And you know, they'd walk in with these beautiful models, and you'd say, "Whoa, that girl, she's going out with you." Whoa.
Yeah, with Lumpy. America's Dad, Hugh Beaumont.
Interesting man. What he really was a Methodist minister. And when he first started, he was down at a very, very, I mean, I hate to say this, but poor church that really couldn't afford a minister. And so he started out as Michael Shane. Now, Michael Shane used to be what they call a B movie or a trailer that they would show before the big movies. Michael Shane was just really rough. He would take people detective, and he kind of went around the police and hit people on the thing and said, "You better tell me the truth now." And nothing that you'd want to do as a minister. So I think when he got to be Ward, it was much more his kind of a part, something he really liked to play. And he was very good. And I could always see him kind of giving, when he gave Beaver usually at the end of the show, all those talking tos, I could see the minister in him coming out.
Everybody wanted Ward and June as parents. I mean, everyone. That's like the perfect mother and father. The house, everything was perfect in that show.
Well, you know, it was ideal, idealized, I guess. And, it was Barbara Billingsley, though, was just like that. She was a New York model and had, when I would visit her sometimes at her home, different times she had birthday parties and things like that. She had a house like that. Now, she had maids, but her house was always perfect. Hugh Beaumont was just the nicest person you'd ever want to be. He'd say if I was having trouble with a line or something, or maybe with a scene that had a lot of lines, he'd say, Jerry, come on, let's walk over here and we'll run it a few more times just so we can, get the pacing right and everything like that. So they were both wonderful people to work with. Tony Dow was not intimidating, but Tony Dow was an AAU swimming and diving champion. Now, I was, 7 years old, so I hadn't really worked with a lot of kids. Tony Dow could take like 4 steps, do a front flip, and land on his feet. I knew I couldn't do that. And I didn't realize that all kids that were just a few years older than me couldn't do that either. But he was just an outstanding, an award-winning athlete, and that's why they picked him.
We have one more person to show you, but when I was going back and watching episodes again, because it's been a little while, and I've seen them all so many times, like I said, growing up, but I notice now as an adult watching that show that it's very cool that show is shot from the perspective of a kid. It's not just about a kid, because if you look at the shots and things, I mean, you see the shot of the kid looking up and the shot of the adult looking down, and it's almost like life through the eyes of a kid. Was it purposely done like that?
That's why it's called Leave It to Beaver. It's the world of adults seen through the eyes of a child. And of course, in scenes when it's Ward and June talking, you don't see that, but that's what it was supposed to be about. What kids are seeing and how kids think and what's happening to them.
That's great. One more of our favorite people, Ken Osmond.
Interesting guy, because everybody thinks, oh, he must be a terrible person, because Eddie Haskell was a decorated LA police officer, had to retire. He's a motorcycle cop down in the worst part of LA. He was down there by choice because he loved all the action. That's the kind of guy he was. He was shot twice in the line of duty, and the second time they had to retire him because he couldn't go back. And they said, well, you can have a desk job. And he goes, if you don't put me on my motorcycle down there, I'm going to retire. So, but just the nicest person, the kind of person you couldn't ask for a better friend. You could ask him to do anything for you. He would do it. That's just the kind of guy he is, and he still is.
It's funny how a role marks someone like that, that because he did it so well. I mean, that not slimy, but that sneaky character, he did it so well. I mean, I can see where that resonates, with people thinking that he's probably like that in real life.
And he's just the absolute polar opposite of that. Like, can you imagine driving like at 80 or 90 miles an hour on the road when it's 35, and all of a sudden the lights come on behind you and you go, oh, I'll talk this cop out of it. Up he walks, pulls off his helmet, and there's Eddie Haskell going to write you a ticket, and you're getting that ticket.
You've got a brand new merchandise website, and you've got some official merchandise. How has that been going?
It goes great. People are always saying, what can we get from Leave It to Beaver? And, they say, do you have scripts? Well, I can't. The scripts are all copyrighted. There's a lot of stuff that you just can't give away. So I decided to do a hat, and it's a copy of that actual hat I wore on the show. And that people always say, well, why is it green? Well, that's the color, because when my mom went on the very first interview, it was kind of a rainy day, and she put this old green hat that she doesn't even know where we got it. And I walked in, and they said, okay. And I came back the next time. They said, well, where's your hat? And I said, well, it's in my back pocket, because I always carried it around because it was hot. And when we started doing the show, they said, we want that hat. My mom said, well, that's his hat. But they said, okay. But that drove the wardrobe crazy, because they couldn't find another hat that was the exact same color and looked like it. So for the whole 6 years, I wore only one cap. Now, like T-shirts, pants, everything else, I had 5 and 6 of. If I spilled something, everything, they had another one. That hat, as soon as I walked off the set, the guy would grab it, put it there, and they would keep it the whole, 39 weeks that we were shooting the show.
The shirt is great too. So you have right now, you've got the shirts and you've got the hats, right? And the hat actually is your signature stitched in, right?
Right. It's stitched embroidered. Yeah.
And Also, his signature is printed on the T-shirt over there to the
That's
left.
what I'm pointing at, but it kind of washes out on.
Well, no, it's on the other side.
On the other side, but
yeah,
I'm pointing towards it. But
and that's,
people are always asking for things from the show, and so we figured, well, okay, here's some things that they could buy, and and people like to wear them, and it's always fun to see somebody wear a picture of you on their chest.
Yeah, it's official merchandise. Now, if anyone watching wants to buy some, which of course, why wouldn't you? The website is www.jerrymathersbeavermerch.com. That's a great long website, Jerry Mathers beavermerch.com. But Teresa, we were talking earlier. Do you want to let people know what's coming? Because I think this is exciting, what you have coming.
yes, actually, it is very fun. We're doing a pin, and I know a lot of people collect pins. Beaver for President, and they are in production now. They will probably be ready in just a couple of weeks. And we also have a hat that also says Beaver for President. So we think it's a good time for that. It's kind of a fun thing. And there was a pin years ago that said Beaver for President. Now this is a new pin. So that will be on the merch website very soon.
I want you to think about a movie that you two saw together that you really like. Something that you were both either in the theater or sitting on the sofa at home watching, but you watched it at the same time. And you two can decide together.
But you don't want us to tell you.
Well, you can tell me, just decide.
Casablanca is one that we both like. We both watch a lot of old movies because we're both kind of old movie fans. So we even watch black and whites a lot, and that's one of our favorites.
Now this is funny because I'm going to show you that my favorite movie is Superman, but we're going to get to this. But Casablanca is actually in here. This is they do the top 100 movies you need to see before you die. You've seen these kind of lists, right? So I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to stand up.
Okay.
Let's see if I can do this correctly. Wait, I want to make sure you can see that too. So I'm going to show you these movies. We have, this is my favorite, but there's Superman is in here, Citizen Kane, Raging Bull, but I want to see they're all different. Lawrence of Arabia, Gone with the Wind, Apocalypse Now, Jaws, Godfather. There's Casablanca, your favorite. La La Land. There is 100 of these. Back to the Future, E.T., Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. So anyway, I'm going to take these, and what I'm going to do is just, again, they're all different. I'm going to take them, and I'm going to hold the stack like this. I don't want to get away from the camera. There we go. So I'm going to separate these into two stacks. Okay? Okay, Teresa, I'm going to let you answer first. Do you want the stack that's higher or lower? Which one do you want? I'll get rid of the other one.
The one that's higher.
You want the higher one?
Yes.
Okay. Get rid of the lower. I will take these. I'll do the same thing. I will separate them into two stacks. Jerry, you can decide upper or lower.
Upper.
You want to keep the upper?
Yeah.
Okay. Few left. We'll do this again. I will separate these. Teresa, up higher or lower?
This time I'll take lower.
Okay, so I'll move these up. I'll get rid of these. Now there are 3 of these left. You can have 1, 2, or 3. 1, 2, or 3.
What each?
2.
That's the middle one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I will take it. I'll just move it. I'll move it to the top like that. Okay. You have selected. Oh, I was hoping we get Superman because that's my favorite. But you got this.
I like Star Wars. That's one of my favorites.
Is this your favorite? One of your favorite movies?
One of my favorite. Not my. Yeah. Very definitely though in the top 10.
I was hoping it was going to be my favorite, which is Superman. But I want to show you this. Hold on. Okay. Let me try this. Ready? Can you hear that?
Yep.
Just like Superman.
was
Right?
so-
Not bad.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
It
Wow,
was
and that's
such a pleasure having you guys. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. We had some technical problems. You guys helped me get through it. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
Thank
inviting
you
us.
so much, Brent. We had a great time.
Don't forget, right now, you can find the t-shirts and the hats at jerrymathersbeavermerch.com, and coming very soon is the Beaver for President 2020 hats and pins. Also, don't forget to follow Jerry online. His website is jerrymathers.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Jerry Mathers.
You know, there was so much footage from this interview that I've cut it into 2 parts. Next week, I'm going to be doing part 2 of my interview with Jerry and Teresa. We're going to be talking a lot more about Jerry's career. We're also going to be talking about his very inspiring weight loss journey.
It seems to be common knowledge that we only use roughly a fraction of our brain power. Have you ever wondered what could be possible if you could unlock that extra power and put it to good use? Stop wondering what could happen if you began using more mental power and start using it. My book is going to help you learn how to tap into those areas of your mind that you normally let run on autopilot. You'll be able to take charge of your life and begin to use your mental powers to improve your life and yourself. Your mind contains not only vast amounts of information, but untapped mental powers that you can unlock and begin to use. From the powers of persuasion to the law of attraction, you too can tap into your own unused brain power to unlock your full potential. Stop watching other people get ahead in life when you can do the same for yourself, starting now.
When you are finished with this ebook, you're going to see changes in your life immediately. But I am telling you, life will never be the same. Once you understand the power of the human mind and the power of imagination in manifesting and creating in your life, you will never go back to living the way you did before.
Just yes or no, is there something that you're thinking of that has to do with a motorcycle or motorbike?
Yes.
It has to do with, is your wife with you?
Yes.
Interesting. Has to do with your wife as well. Did you propose to your wife on a motorbike?
Yes.
Give us some applause. Take a seat. So, the password to their cell phone. If your password to your cell phone is 4471, just yell out.
Somebody is thinking about the city of Westminster. Where is that person? Westminster. Right there in the front. Or near the front, right by you. Good. You can take your hands off your mouth now, it's okay. Pass the mic down, please. What? Is there a 4 in there?
Yes.
And a 6?
Yes.
Think of the street. Edro?
Oh my.
Is that Edro? Is it Edro Isle? Is that right?
Yes.
You are thinking about a very long series of numbers, am I correct?
Yes.
Is this a phone number, or what kind of number is this?
Delta Sky Miles.
The Delta Sky Mile number. You're just going to answer me after each digit. Are you ready? 2,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
0,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
3. That's the hesitation. Is it 4? A 3, 4,
Yes.
7, 9.
Yes.
That's it. Good. Give her some applause.
Bringing back the mentalist, Mr. Brent Webb.
You know, people email and message me all the time, asking me for tips on how they can ignite their intuition and unlock their hidden mind power. Most people don't realize, actually only 5% of the population of this world know how to properly use the human mind. And those who know how to use it are the most successful among us. You know, when you were in school, you probably had a teacher or a parent who told you, you need to concentrate more. You need to learn to focus. Were you ever taught how to do those things? I bet you weren't, and I bet your parents and teachers weren't either. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this channel. I am going to be uploading a lot more content, and I'm going to release to you the information that took me 25 years to put together. I'm going to tell you exactly, step by step, how you can unlock the power of your mind and change your life in so many positive ways. It's very, very, very easy to do once you know exactly how it's done. Step by step by step. You follow, and I guarantee you will see results almost immediately. Also, keep in mind, because of the COVID-19 situation, I'm offering my seminars and my programs virtually. I do have a program on dealing with fear and change during crisis. I mean, it couldn't be more perfect than it is right now. I do a lot of corporate events for those, virtually of course. I also do virtual one-on-one readings. Now, there is more information on my website if you go to brentwebb.info/merch, but the private readings are available just like I do with my celebrity clients. I can do virtually, and I can do it with you. Also available on my website are all of my ebooks, covering everything from numerology to the untapped powers of the human mind. Give them a look. It's brentwebb.info/merch. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. You guys have been amazing, and I certainly appreciate all the support. You can always message me, you can always email me, and of course, leave your comments down below and tell me what you're working on, what you'd like to talk about, and I will certainly do that for you. I do appreciate it again, and thank you for bringing me into your home. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.